that I don't think is going to change anytime soon. And that might complicate the desire that anyone will want to vote Ruto out. And just follow me in this analogy. Let us be truthful. When it will come to the time of voting, we will vote tribally, as we have always done. The political class will spread the Mutuyetu narrative into our mind in whatever local setups we are in, or wherever you are, wherever you are, whichever place you are going to vote according to your tribe, according to the political directive you have been given by whoever is the point man of your tribe. That's how Kenyans have been voting. That's how they're going to vote. And that's how they'll be voting in future voting seasons. So about Ruto will lose is something that I don't think can happen unless we have a change in mind, a change of mindset about how we vote and who we vote. If we need people like Ruto to lose elections, people like him, by saying people like him, I mean people who would say anything to earn empathy and sympathy from the naive Kenyans, naive Wamama, naive youth, and naive villagers down there. People who know how to dramatize and earn sympathy from them. People like him. You know what they did with Uhuru in their case, with the head? They used it to earn empathy and sympathy, and that's how they amassed some votes. He used sympathy. He used the sympathy attracting theatrics to play victim in the circumstances of the said handshake government, and he earned most of votes because he was being sympathized with. Another Ruto type kind of politicians are those who say anything to earn a vote. They'll promise anything to earn a vote. And they know that we are naive Kenyans. We don't think through anything statement that is said. And we follow naively anyone that can entice us with words. Another Ruto type of leaders and politicians that can still go ahead and vote are those that buy our votes. Think a minute about somebody who uses 60 million to earn an elected position of an MP, and somebody who uses up to 10 billion, even over, to earn the presidential election. If you calculate the 5 years with the salary, it does not make sense. But we vote people based on how much we are going to spend on our pockets as handouts. So people are willing to spend money. People are willing to lie. People are willing to play the empathy games on our psychology. Are people that we are going to vote. So if somebody is going to tell me how Ruto will lose, then I cannot take him seriously because he's the type we always vote. We don't think through what they say. We judge a potential winner according to how much he's spending on us. You see, this guy even bought the church. This guy bought everybody, bought every opinion leader. He bought typically every political influencer in the country to his side. He worked so hard to buy people. He brought people into rallies, used money. Those are the people we are going to vote in. So if we want somebody like Ruto to lose election, we must first of all lose our mindset of how we judge a leader, how we see somebody who can govern, how we, you see, it cannot just work. Because with the same Kenya I know, Ruto is now taking his foot off the mountain towards the lake. And everybody knows what I mean by that. With the lake and the Rift Valley, and definitely, if he still plays by the books he's trying to play with, then he's going to have the coast entirely Western Kenya entirely. Based on how we always vote, he will have those. Then how will he lose? So me coming into this place this evening is not to discourage you on your perception or on your belief that you can be voted out. Of course, anybody can be voted out. If a miracle happens that will change our mindset. But from now henceforth, I said, and I have always been saying, in any space I have spoken about, I have spoken in earlier, that it is not the right focus on who shall win or shall not win. Guys, can we focus on something that can work out better for us in the future? About who we can vote in or vote out, they're still going to end up messing us up. Moi messed us up after Kenyatta. Kibaki tried. Maybe Kibaki's grand coalition government, the government that came in after the post-election violence, was a bit better with us because it was a government of self-check. This side trying to automatic this other side. It was a government of accountability within itself. But whatever happened in the second term of Kibaki, first term of Uhuru Kenyatta, second term of Uhuru Kenyatta, first term of Ruto right now is a mess. And no one can write home anything good about it. So my point is, anybody that shall come into power, guys, will still mess us up, provided we have the rotten policies of governance in place. Right now, we should not be focusing on who will lose or win elections in 2027. No. Can we call for a constitutional review? And can we call on sanity in the judiciary and enforcement of laws of Kenya? Can we first of all tighten this constitution 2010 that has loose ends that anybody that gets into power gets to overuse against us? I'm still wondering why Senator Nyonka recently, just weeks ago, claimed that 71 million gets into State House every day from the Treasury. Who gives State House power to allocate funds like that to it? Who gives the presidency the powers to hire people in the name of advisors in excess of hundreds? Last the reports were that the deputy president that was just impeached had over 100 advisors. Because we all know that the president allocated the offices that are unconstitutional. We shouldn't be having office of the first lady in the first place. We should be having office of the first daughter. We should be having office of prime cabinet secretary and office of the first of the prime cabinet secretary. Those are offices that I don't know the powers that the president gets to create such offices. It's the constitution that gives. We need a constitution that restricts powers of the president. It should be written, the do's and the don'ts should be clear in the constitution so that no one has the powers to erroneously allocate funds and create offices that are not beneficial to us. We should check into that first before we go into who should lose and who should win. Secondly, we should check into Article 104, Section 2, I think, that gives the MPs powers to create legislation on terms in which they should be called out of the office by the people. Calling out an MP, recalling an MP is more difficult than recalling a president. Why? Because of Constitution 2010 that gives it. We should check into that first so that we can recall these MPs that are so incompetent to us. We should also make corruption a capital offense in this country. We should also make voter bribery and handouts during campaigns a capital offense in this country if we need to save situations. We must be in a position to arrest and nullify the candidatures of politicians who line up people for handouts during campaigns. If we need to change anything in this country, let us first of all tighten the constitution. It has a lot of loose ends. And bring sanity in the judiciary such that the constitution can be implemented perfectly. We should also check into the reason as to why State House alone in every financial year spends almost equivalent amount of allocation to all the 47 counties in the country. How can just Office of the President, State House spend over 400 billion when all the 47 countries are just struggling to be given a similar amount? I mean, is it even logical? That is just one office. That's just one residence hosting a president. Why should you be spending over 400 billions per year in the State House when counties that should be running on devolution are struggling to be approved similar amount? The Constitution has a problem. If we are not going to speak about such things and still want to speak about who should lose, who should win, okay, Ruto lose, Ruto win, what changes? The next president comes, maybe, God willing, he loses. Then we have somebody else. He still gets the powers Ruto did have. He still gets the powers Uhuru and Ruto had previously. He still gets the powers that were there, that are given by the Constitution, and nothing moves on. They still exploit it. Right now, we have a country whereby whoever gets into power, and these people, it is always their turn to eat, not to change anything, not to do anything for us. It's always their turn to eat. This government that is in place, the cabinet secretaries that were shuffled and some of them laid off. We remember just months into office, they are there in the television stations showing us what they have of a watch, what they have of a shoe, what they have of a shirt, of a suit. I mean, reports are that some of them running into Dubai, billions of money be getting arrested there. Some are investing in Uganda, some are investing in Tanzania, some are investing in England. Billions of money every day. Last week, reports were from the Treasury that Kenyans are losing 2 billion every day into the hands of graft. What are we doing about it? If we can not speak about corruption being a capital offense and still speculate how Ruto will lose or will win, my friends, we're not speaking about the right thing we should be speaking about. And we are wasting time. Right now, we must push for constitutional reform. We must push for capital offenses to be made of corruption. I think I'll rest it there. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Nicholas, thank you for your submission. Let me get this chance to say hello to everybody on speaker, Fabish host, Daria, Lyson, Japonjo, Mzalendo, Nicholas, Wanjiru, hello everybody, and the rest of the listeners. At this point, I think Lyson was next. Go to him, and then Mzalendo. I see your hand is up, but if you don't mind waiting, Lyson speaks next, and then it's going to be you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, co-host. I think the previous speaker, was it Nicholas? I have listened to you, but you've taken us deep in 3 phases: whining, pessimism, and finally you have come up with your proposal on how to handle it. Let me start with the whining. You have been all of us have gone through that phase when this Mandamano started, and we have been whining. So the whining of saying what is not working, what is not whining, that is okay. It's acceptable. The pessimism that nothing can be happen, I think that's self-defeatist, because we are very positive, and that's why we're in these spaces and we're spending time. We are here because we believe we can remove Ruto, the same way we voted him in, the same way those who prayed, the same way those who campaigned for him campaigned, and we can remove him because we have all the reasons to believe he can be removed through constitutional law and constitutional manners. The third thing you've said about your roadmap for, first of all, that we must deal with a constitutional review and removing MP. I want just to excite you by telling you we are not, it's not that we don't know that is also a priority area. We are also trying to think of what can be done now in a way to keep pressure to Ruto until we either have to in 2027 or, if possible, have him surrender to the pressure earlier. The reason why I'm telling you that is because you're speaking about having a constitutional review. That's another monster. Do we have an IBC to conduct the constitutional review? We don't even have an IBC. So how can we start thinking about crossing the bridge? And Ruto deliberately is using those tactics. And you have said very well, he's using political tactics and delays and tribal cards, of which we know. But how do we start talking about judicial reforms? Yet already all the judiciary is in his pocket. You saw what happened in the Gachagua case. They met at night. They did that. How can we as citizens be able to remove that judiciary without mandamano? What is the legal ways for us as citizens of Kenya now to remove the judiciary? How can we do a constitutional review without collecting signatures of millions and them being verified by IBC for us even to do that reform of we are talking about for us to win Ruto? So I am not trying to disagree with what you're saying, but I'm just telling you we're in such a mess as a country, so that some of the ideas that we may be having, like those ones, cannot work. They are not practical. In other words, what we've been talking about here, because already there are enough the chess has already been laid, so we can only topple the table and call for a fresh game, or continue playing in a chess game where all of us are in a checkmate. So in my submission, and it's good you have ended with a proposal, is we have also wasted 4 hours here talking about useless things, personalities, who has done what. Guys, let's continue focusing on this kind of a discussion with what strategies can we employ now. One of the things that is working and the things that are not working, we can drop them or enhance them and move forward. One of the things that I want to encourage all of us is working, is the online warfare. Nobody should come and tell us through online we can't achieve much. Now put there on Jumbo Trail, there's an organization that does the most corrupt persons in the world. It's up there. You can take a moment, you can fill in. It's always good for Ruto to be featuring in all the negatives in the world, because we must keep him the world map as an anarchist, a looter, and we must deconstruct him in the world stage so that we continue usurping his credibility that he had tried to create in the first year by having almost 100 trips in 1 year. So that is working. So the whole online warfare must go. I think the next thing we'll be talking about right now is what is the next hashtag. Now that we are done with the Dani, what is the next thing that we need to put collectively that everybody can participate on now? Because some of these things that we are trying to say, like constitutional review and what, are things that require some sort of professionals, some sort of order, and they're not easy. So that may require a small group initiative, a set of lawyers, a set of academias. Nicholas can take up the challenge and say, what is the formulas we can use? Because we can't use parliament. We have evaluated that. All the parliamentarians have been jumping how high whenever Ruto requires them to applaud. You remember the other time when, after Mandamano, when Ruto said he has dissolved the cabinet, they were clapping behind him. Before that, they were saying the bill is okay. So we don't have a parliament, in essence, that can remove Ruto, and that is a constitutional way. The other way is through Katiba. We don't have an IBC. So do we start with lobbying for an IBC now, of which Ruto and Raila will have control? Or what do we do? So those are things that may require a bit of technical. Why we're in these spaces is probably to help the smaller groups can be able to be coming with something more concrete. The issues like the ones you've raised may require some technical input from professionals. If that is probably organized, and a few of us or a few of you can organize and bring it as a proposal to the multitude or to the many of us who are not very conversant with deeper things like those ones, then we can evaluate and give us a tagline we can push, because most of us here, the best thing we have is a phone and a constituency of 10 or 5 friends or 100 or 1,000. We can influence for the movement. So I'll encourage that we try to look for things that can work for the majority of us. Those are things that are bordering civic education on particular sects, if it's femicide, if we are talking about voter registration or taking IDs, on issues like, for example, that require the masses to participate. Those specialized attempts or proposals may have their own challenges. We know Third Way Alliance or Kuro Court tried Punguza Mzigo initiative. After collecting signatures, I think in 24 counties or something like that, 25 counties, and already IBC struck off, said half of them were fake signatures. So Raila Odinga himself also tried to do a Katiba change. It never works. And those are very difficult conversation when you have a tyrant, so, or rather a government in place. So let's try to focus on low-hanging fruits that may require all of us. The hashtag of Meg Whitman was a good one. We achieved something. The win of Donald Trump was good for us. As much as we don't know how his presidency is, but we know there's going to be a dynamic, drastic shift on how they deal with the Ruto administration. The issues require talking about the 3 families or the 4 families of the Uhurus, the Rutos, the Railas. Those are political cousins. I've said it here, I've even posted in the comments. These are political cousins. They are in birds of a feather. They operate together. It is just about interest. They can shift tables any other time. Let us try to think of how we can create a new dawn in Kenya with new set of leaders. And if we need to campaign drastically, for example, tutakula pesa yako, tutavotia maskini, or we want even to be as nasty as a war between the poor and the rich as a narrative, let it be. If it's going to help us in this movement, tuseme tutachagua waizi wetu, because four waizis have been stealing for us for 40 years. Now is that time for new thieves. So be it. I'm trying to say that let's be as open as possible on a narrative that will require the masses and will captivate very well and easily and simply with a majority. But those are technical issues that may require processes that are oversighted by this government. We might also be wasting a lot of time. We have seen it in the courts. We have seen the case of, I don't support Gachagua, how it went. We have seen the cases of the finance bill. We have seen Omtata's fights in court. We are not saying we are not going to stop, but we know very well that is skewed negatively against us. So as much as we're brainstorming, let's try to brainstorming on what easily. And the idea can be as stupid as it can, but it can be effective because we are using unconventional methods to remove a conventional government or a tyrant. So I rest there, but I hope I'm clear on that submission, Calvin.
Mr. Lyson, thank you so much for that submission. You're talking about working and not working, 2 categories, and hopefully our speakers and the rest of the team, listeners can be able to chip in more stuff or their ideas of how they think about these situations. Liona, what was his name? Mzalendo alikuwa ameinua mkono and then amepotea. Sijui kama ako karibu. Mzalendo, kaa uko kwa listeners.